Hello there. So, this is kind of a finale video on cards. This is something that I really haven't figured out any other way to really properly do this. Since I really don't have a definitive ending I ever wrote, along with other plot threads that really kind of never went anywhere. It's kind of a somber thing, really, that I'm kind of ending it without it being completely finished. Uh, but this is kind of just going over the whole series as a whole and what I wanted to really do with it in terms of what was really supposed to happen going the entire way through, like what was realistically supposed to happen to every single character and all that. And it might be a bit shorter of a video than I um, originally thought I would do because I have so much lore that I've written for like nearly basically half a decade of my life. Um, it's kind of like never being able to fully do something is just such a weird feeling because I've accomplished so much by even putting everything on the website and doing cards negative one. But in terms of what I've physically written, like for all intents and purposes, I've kind of just spun my wheels over and over again. And I don't mean that to sound very like negative. It's just like I really haven't accomplished what I wanted to do. I think that's something just kind of irks me a little bit. So I do feel like I need to do this like as a little bit of closure and for like the series as a whole because it pretty much just ends on a cliffhanger. Even in when I tried doing all of these and then I put it online like I was going to start writing it for real, I realized like, well, this isn't just gonna work. Um, so I guess I should start at the beginning where I originally had, and I don't have it here just because I didn't feel like it for continuity. Um, I originally wrote all of this. I had a like mini small story on Wattpad, which was what originally inspired me. I then wrote a prequel to it because I'd never written something like a comic book universe, and I fell in love with the prequel characters more than I did even with the original because the original is just basically kind of very mean spirited. It came from a very dark place in my life because with like COVID, I really couldn't go anywhere. I was kind of in the prime of my life, what should have been the prime of my life, where I should have been going out, having a lot of friends and hanging out. I just never really did that. So because of that, my story was very like edgy, for lack of a very dim word. I mean, it was a very very edgy book, and because of that, I made a prequel to it, and it was a lot more happy in terms of what the subject material was. Where Doug is just kind of a happier guy than the protagonist of Cards One. Um, so it kind of just spiraled out of control from there, where I just was like, you know what? I think I like the prequel better because it has a definitive ending. Because I kept writing the original, and it really kind of ended up like this exact thing where I had no definitive end. So it kind of just kept snowballing over and over and over again. Um, but yeah, after I finally started writing stuff on paper and drawing, I decided to make the first draft. It was about 20 pages. The next one was this entire book, and then I just basically wrote from here, going all the way to all these other books. I did have the idea originally for cards when I was hanging out with my friends a really long time ago. I had a different friend group when I was writing this, and that was another thing that really made my writing extremely angsty, where I really had, like, honestly, I did not have any friends. I had one friend when I was during COVID. So I was like completely isolated and angry, and I just kind of put it in there. So it's not really, it is me. I think every work that you do create yourself into it. And especially with that, that was probably some of my worst tendencies and anger of just getting it like barfed onto the page. But it was kind of necessary, I think, because I would have never created cards. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry. Created cards. That's how I thought of the idea. Um, yeah. So basically, it just kind of like the main reason why I don't think I've ever and probably will never finish cards appropriately is because, and this is something I probably do want to do in the future as a video on how to be a better writer, because I do no matter how I feel about my earlier writing or even this, the fact that it's unfinished, I did make a substantial leap, an absolute like writing that angsty cards to getting here is like night and day. I mean, it's even in the beginning, it's basically night and day for what I've written. But like the problem kept arising when I kept adding characters. That is the thing that literally kneecapped this from ever being completed, and probably will ever keep it from being completed. For me to complete what I've written now would be impossible because I kept rewriting over and over and over. Like at this point, this was the third rewrite. Online, I have the original that I wrote out, which was a mini like super short story on like written out, typed out. Then I redrew this first draft, which was 20, 30 pages. Then I filled up the book, so we're already at three. Then I put it online, and then I kept trying to rewrite it. It's not 10 times that I did it, but I I did it like 6 or 7 times, and I still couldn't get it. Because what I did was I would write stuff like this. I wrote a lot of cool things, and then like it just kept turning out of control. Where I would introduce a character that's based off of something, and some of those ideas were good. Like for example, in this version, like D was originally supposed to be a character that shows up in the original, and I was like, none of the D things with like the letters ever was a thing um, until I just made it up on the spot. Where I was like, well, if there's D Squad, there should be other letters, and I introduced characters around that, which was good. But alternatively, that means I created 26 more characters. Now, I didn't like overwhelm myself because I didn't create it where it was like every single character has a backstory, but I'm kind of like that in a weird, I guess, semi autistic way where I'm really like detail oriented because I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. If I have D, then why is no one else around? And I literally keep thinking about that stuff all day. Like, that's all I thought about for like 5 years, where D comes from a squad with Jack. Like I literally wrote all of their names down. Now not all of them are really like set in stone, but I have always thought about that. Like all their powers, all their ways of like even for the cards themselves, I wrote down like a mini document. I don't like know if I'll ever put it down on there, but it goes over the rules that explain like all the things that you can and cannot do with cards. Like everything. Um, so yeah, just it really did it kneecapped everyone because I kept adding more characters. Like Doug, he was just some dude. Then it turned from I did make Zeke, Z, his brother, which made it really good in terms of it's a good idea that he'd be fighting his own brother. That's like something that is really good in terms of like struggles for a character in terms of stuff is interesting. Um, so it's like stuff like that. I really did. Um, yeah, I just really kept adding characters. It really just kept on getting out of control and out of control and out of control. Like Zeke being his brother was fine, but then it became like, okay, well, if Zeke is his brother, then doesn't that bring up so many more questions about how would Doug know? How would Doug not know? How would Doug process his trauma? How would Doug do anything if his brother was someone who was taken as well as every other letter? So it it really did just keep going out of control. I'm probably going to keep saying that over and over and over and over, but it really was the thing that separated this from being from completed. It really, like, even with H in one of the side stories I did, he he brings up they bring up so many more questions because I kept adding it, and then like I kept on making characters that explained that explained everything about them. Like for -1, for example, like I gave him an entire prequel story. Let's see where he's at. Right up there. This guy, Steven. He isn't called Steven anymore because I thought Cameron King was a lot better because I watched Blade Trinity and I thought, like when I saw Hannibal King, I was like, oh, that's a lot cooler of a name. Like King, I could do the Peter Parker thing where it's like he's actually got, like a, like Lois Lane, Peter Parker, all that type of stuff. But I gave him an entire backstory. I gave him a girlfriend. I gave him so many things in the prequel. Like one of the letters he fights is one of the reasons. Oh, I added another zero into it too. The one before him, which really is the one who goes on the bridge with D. So it's like I really just kept kept adding parts. Like, it's like you keep adding it. If you keep adding it, that's the thing. But it fleshes out the world, and that's something like I can't get over. I could not just write Steven just going around / Cameron. I couldn't just have him running around doing like whatever he wanted because then it would be like it would confuse me. I'd be like, well, what did he really do? I want to know what he did. I want to make sure that what he did is consistent with canon and that there isn't a guy who just randomly has a power that can just do whatever and it doesn't just completely like it doesn't just completely change the whole idea of what cards is because if you just completely take that out, if you don't have everything consistent, then it's just going to end up with a huge mess in the long run where you didn't bother to pay attention. Now there's nothing you can do. So it's like you just basically have to keep going. And again, it did add so many good ideas. It just sucks. Like I just wish I could have finished it. I really wish I could, but I just can't. It's like that's why I kind of basically have to just move on. If I don't move on, then I'm literally never going to. I'm never going to continue it. Let's see. Sorry, I have to do one little thing on my phone, but I'm still here. Plus, it's kind of just making me like a little, a little tiny upset because it's like, man, I really just, you really get to a point where it's almost your kid. I really do feel like in a weird, sick way. I know it's almost like kind of impossible to, but like I've spent 5 years with these characters. Like I have created their entire life, man, and it's like for me not to be able to finish that, it just sucks. It just sucks. Like I can't give Doug like I did write a few on paper, but it's like it's just not the same as like completely finishing it. You know. I I really did try, but it's like I wanted to make it better. Like it kind of almost became my wife had a very good saying where your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. And my greatest weakness is I wanted to do better over and over and over and over again. I wanted to be amazing. I wanted to be like, I mean, I've done more than the average person, like, do not get me wrong. But it's like, I just, now that I'm aware, it's like, I can't even compare to, like, Alan Moore in Watchmen. That's one of my favorite things of all time. He is just, he has a mind I cannot ever comprehend. Not in like a bad way. Like I understand like all the stuff in Watchmen, but it's like I don't have his brain or his like ability to create like that. And it's just it's frustrating. It really is. You know, I'm not an artist. Like even the art has gotten way better than what it was prior, which is like fine. Um, but it's like so some other things I'll just kind of go over a little tidbit now that I'm here. So one thing I always really liked was I did like the um, him getting his powers through going to a party. I thought that was kind of fun because that made him seem kind of stupid. But the only thing that really didn't make any sense is him doing his project on it. After I thought about it, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If he knows all this stuff, then he's not gonna like actually be dumb enough to not know. So it's kind of like a mixed sword where I kind of had to like again, even stuff like that. It's like people wouldn't care, but I care. Like I care about the logical consistency too much, and that's why I think like my next project being like Booger Pig and Astro Pig, where the like rules are a bit more loose, is something that I would enjoy more, and making it episodic, like you're not doing anything else. But I really did like the idea of this, of Doug being like a greedy moron, for lack of a better word. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's just the house, all that stuff. Um, so the D Squad motif, I that is something I think I did a lot better on in like the other rewrites where I kept some characters. I got rid of like four where he really didn't do much. To be honest, like all he was just a like person who gave information about cards, which shouldn't really. I mean, how would D not know that information? So he's really not relevant anymore. So I kind of just wrote him out. But having like the character design aspect of Doug being 0, Metal being 1. Oh wait, yeah, Alvin being 2, Sarah being 3, D being D. I think that's brilliant. I loved that. That is something I really did because I wasn't good at drawing. I'm like, okay, no matter what, you'll know exactly who it is. That to me is brilliant. That's actually something I think is really smart, and I've always loved that. But I think D has also changed a lot in terms of her design, where she just completely evolved into something else that she probably never was originally supposed to be. But because I wrote about something different, it was completely it was completely for the better, I think. Um, yeah. Then after that, I had this one in my rewrite multiple times where Metal and all of them go and fight Dreamer. Um, so yeah, that's something I always kept in all my rewrites. I and again, it's like so now I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent again where Metal. I again, it's like you almost feel like it's your kid. It's a very weird thing to like say that like on a video and you're telling people that, but it's like with Metal, he is a character who I originally made the traitor because I've always liked character arcs where he is someone who would be like a brother to Doug, and he would eventually betray him, which is something that tied into something that was in my personal life at that time where I felt very betrayed by a lot of my friends because I didn't have any, and they basically shut me out. I had like nobody. And I wrote that even though I got over it and I do have new friends, it's not like I'm just some guy sitting in my house with nobody on earth. I mean, I at least have one person, unless I'm willing to just lie to you and put on a wedding ring. But like just that level of, I wanted like to just channel that like anger, that primordial rage that I had of being just taken advantage of Metal becoming a bad guy. Like, I love, I know it's like weird to say, but it's like I just loved seeing his struggle. You know, I have it where he would just be how he was up to book two, and when it comes time for Doug to fight him, he's way too cocky and thinking that he's going to beat him, and then the next time he sees him, he really can't win. It's also an analogy to someone in my family who was close to me had cancer. I'm not going to say who it is, obviously. And it's like with his metalism, it's just similar to cancer, which is something that I am uh, afraid of in terms of life. I think that that's one of the scariest ways that any human can go, is to be like taken out by cancer. Like I really think that it's, and that would play into his whole character arc where he was a guy who, you know, with his powers, he's basically has metal cancer, and for him, it's like he can't become good again. And no matter how wrong he still is, and no matter how wrong he was treated, it doesn't make it right. And there's a lot of people on Earth, I think, who, even though they are in the wrong and they have good intentions or they're just lashing out, that doesn't make you right. And for Metal, it would be the exact same thing. Like, he fought and he fought and he fought, and no matter how many times he just wanted a peaceful life, life will never give him that. And for him to keep lashing out, it's justified in his mind, but it's still not, which makes him such a tragic character, going from Doug's best friend to he dies. Like, I never even really wrote his death properly because it's just so, like, upsetting. And in the rewrites, I decided to make him not uh, not a villain, but that also turns into, like, when I wrote this, every single character who's in this has to die, basically. There's only a few who survive, like Dee, because of her power, survives, but other than that, everyone else is gone by the original. The original proves like they all are kaputs. They literally cannot survive to the original, which makes it like really good for me because I don't have to worry about getting anything in, like, I know how it ends. Like, there's no way to confuse it. It's just going to happen. It's just how it works. There's no way to have them survive. But it's like, so then I added another character where he fights in Europe, and his final moment is he actually survives. So let me just backtrack a little bit here, but he goes, his original death was he is just destroying an entire town. I've never written this. This is like option one, basically, which is the bad ending, but like he goes and just rampages at a town because he only has like days left. I mean, he turns basically into like a huge metal monster. Like, I'm talking about, he's almost as big as a building. He's like not it's not really that good of a comparison, but Spider-Man 3 levels of size where he's like Sandman at the very end of the movie, give or take like about probably a fourth to a half of his size. And he fights Doug, and Doug literally just steamrolls him. And it's like he is not redeemed, he's not forgiven. Like, no, he's evil. And it's like, Doug, there's just sometimes in life people are just wrong. They're evil and they're wrong. Like, you can't reason with them. Like, even if you've been given bad choices, like you can always make the wrong choice. You can always make the right choice, but you can always still make the wrong choice. So that was his one ending, and I was just like, man, it's like it sucks. It sucks to write Debbie Downer stuff like that, but it's necessary. I think. I think to have a book where everything's positive, to have a book where everything's like right in the world, it's not a story. There's no struggle. There's no strife. So then, like, what's the point? And I think having all of them die is what makes their lives worth living for. Like, I think the most important thing that I wrote that I still believe in for Cards is that Doug sacrificing himself at the end is what is one of, if not the, it's what proves you're human, to be honest with you. For Doug willing to sacrifice himself means you are human. Humans are the only animals on Earth that can willingly hurt themselves. They can willingly put themselves into harm's way consciously. And for Doug to do that, it just proves you are a man. Like he is doing that for his like wife, I guess. I mean they never really got married in the book, but for him and Dee, like he sacrifices himself for the good of humanity, and he fails. You know, he fails. That's like, but it's not in a somber tone. It's like I think Doug doing that is important. It's true. It's more realistic. Like more people have sacrificed themselves and achieved what they think is nothing. But there's so many people who have struggled and given in this world. You know, like you dying for your children is like you have given them life. You know, you have given Doug's willingness to stop Jack at the end is his life. It's his. I mean, he could have decided to work with Jack and potentially live longer, but he knew that it's not right, and he has to stop him here and now. That's like a whole nother level of just heroics. I mean, there are no real stories nowadays, and I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm like the greatest writer ever, but there's no stories that show what it is to mean to be a hero, to like. So the whole thing, that's something. Let me go a little bit further, so you don't have to look at the exact same page. But Doug originally having one arm, it kept on going to the point where he had. Let's see. Let's get there. So the point where he got here is because the whole point is every single time that he got cut, every single time that he got a limb removed, he became more human. And him losing his eyes, his arms, his legs, I mean he's deaf. I mean, it's like he became more human than anyone because of that. That's just something that I wanted to go on a tangent. I guess I just, you know, it's kind of like a like behind the scenes, I guess, but it's like that's just something I can't explain. I guess it's only in my head. It's so weird to like really say this out loud because I don't think even explaining it would ever give the true amount of context. Like this what I'm saying has like 5 years of me in it. Like this is me. I mean, love it or hate it, it is me that wrote this. There is like a piece of everyone of my soul is in these people. I guess. I mean, I don't know if I'd call them people, but it's like I think I have fleshed out Doug. I mean, I've spent more time with Doug than I have actual people on this planet. Like not in a weird way, but like I've spent more time with him. It's like I've at least probably spent like a month straight, like probably more. I mean like constantly because there were days where I took less, but I mean I really spent time with. I mean I filled out like 10 books, dude. Like it's crazy. So yeah, so that's with Metal and that's with Doug, just showing that. I think it's better in the online one where he accidentally blows himself up because he's like so confident that he's able to take on Dreamer, and he's just like, "Take this, you moron," and it just comes back and blows himself off. I think that's a lot better. Dreamer also was one of the characters. I don't know how I even just. I don't know, like. I don't know what these things even were ever supposed to be. I never really gave it a reason. I never really gave it any thought. I just think it was kind of like. I think it was just kind of cool to make them have these weird things on the back. It's just something I kind of did. He was also a character that was one of my friends who read this. He was one of their favorites, and I I jokingly was thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, because he's the only one who doesn't talk. He does talk at the very end, but it's like he pretty much just doesn't talk, so he's just kind of like, he's just kind of there. Um, yeah, so that was kind of part one for like behind the scenes because this video is really long, but you know what? I think I need to do this just as a cathartic, like, getting it out there because I need to just go through and do all the behind the scenes things because if I never do it, like you just kind of watch it, it's at the end of like a cliffhanger and then there's nothing else. So that's uh kind of a little bit weird. So I will see you in the next one.